Hey everybody, Stu Smith here, going live, taking some questions on this nice Thursday morning. Or in other words, we call Thursday Mobility Day here in our training group. And if you're not quite sure what Mobility Day is, you need to add one because it is life-changing if you are over 40, and it is performance enhancing if you are in your 20s or teens. But basically what it is, it's later in the week. So let's say after you've done a couple of hard Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday workouts and you're going into Thursday, that's when you kind of pull the reins back a little bit and lick your wounds. Anything that's sore, you need to stretch and roll it, you need to warm it up. But anyway, it works like this. We do a 5-minute cardio activity. Typically we like non-impact stuff, so it's biking, elliptical, rowing, swimming. Even you can do it if you want to do that for 5 minutes, and then you do a 5-minute stretch or foam roll session. Now you can also add in massage tool if you want to do that and really get in there with a buffer or one of those little massage jigsaws. Those seem to feel pretty good, actually. So anyway, that's our mobility day. And then afterwards, we'll go do another non-impact activity in the water where we focus on just a nice, easy swim. Once again, getting the kinks out. Then doing a tread or an aqua jog. And then all the dynamic stretches you can think of in chest deep water. And let me tell you, for me, in my advanced age, it is life-changing. Right? I leave the weight room in no pain. I wake up in the mornings now, no pain. Used to have some lower back issues. It really does help. So it's a nice little addition. And then you could also add these little, what I call mini mobility days, into the end of your workouts as a cool down. So you can do, instead of a 5-round cycle of what we do on mobility day, like 5 minutes of cardio, 5 minutes of stretching, foam rolling, do that 5 times. It takes 50 minutes at least to do that. So instead of doing it for that long, just do it for a couple rounds and take 10, 15, 20 minutes to do it. And it's a good end of the hard workout session too, especially if you've done a lot of impact stuff. If you've done some rucking, done hard running, a lot of box jumps, or even any leg day for me typically tends to warrant some kind of mobility afterwards, just to kind of, like I said, stretch it out. And for those of you guys going into military selection programs, it's a great thing to do after a hard day. So whether that is stretch and foam roll, whether that is get on a non-impact, Aerodyne bike or something like that, or a life cycle, it doesn't really matter. Just 5 minutes of some kind of non-impact activity followed by 5 minutes of stretching and foam rolling. Do that 2 times, you'll see a huge difference in how you feel and how you perform. Because I'm seeing guys that are injured less. I'm seeing guys that are performing probably 25, 30% better on the following 2 days of the week. Like, after we do this on Thursday, their Friday and Saturday workouts, instead of just muddling through it at 60%, they're seeing, 85, 90%, their abilities, after multiple workouts prior to the week. And some days we do 2 a days, so we're getting a lot in there. Oh, all right. So what kind of questions we got? I'm happy to take some questions. By the way, I'm also recording this on, it'll be on my YouTube channel. I'm not going YouTube live right now, but I'll put this video up on YouTube, so it'll be here for a while. If you miss the story today, weren't able to see the whole thing, you can do that. So I'm just going to scroll through some questions here. Thought I saw a couple pop up. Best stretches to keep calves from cramping when first starting to swim with fins. Well, you need to also make sure it's not hydration issues or electrolytes. But when you're first starting out with fins, here's what's going to happen. Your ankles are going to hurt, your feet are going to hurt, and your legs will probably cramp. It might be hamstrings, it might be calves. Some people have some shin issues. A lot of people have IT band flare ups sometimes when you're swimming a lot with scuba fins and you're running on top of it. That can happen. That's why, once again, that mobility day really helps with helping you stretch some of those things out. And some of the exercises we do, when I say stretching, we're actually doing some, corrective exercises for shoulders and hips. We work that glute medius a little bit to help with IT band issues. Um, so there's a lot of little things that you can add into those 5 minutes off and really work all the, often neglected exercises that people do, like internal, external rotations on, with rubber bands, or, just making sure your shoulder doesn't hurt and any part of its mobility. So that's what we tend to do. But the best stretches, usually what we used to do is just grab the end of the fin and pull back on it. You don't even have to take your fins off. Just grab the end of the fin, pull back on it, and let it stretch your calf a little bit, let it shake out, and then get back in the water and start doing it again. But like I said, you need to make sure your hydration and electrolytes are squared away, because that is typically an injury I see a lot with folks that are just a little bit dehydrated. And in fact, the other day we ran the Spec Ops Try here, where we did a 5-mile run, a 5-mile ruck, and during that we did some fireman carries and bear crawls along the journey. And then we swam last and with fins, and it never fails, no matter how good a swimmer you are or how long you've been swimming with fins. I think we had about 20% of our group cramp up. And the guys that didn't cramp up were hydrating the whole time, and had a big thing of Gatorade right before the swim, which probably helped them a little bit with some electrolytes, if it works that fast. I'm not exactly sure. So, yeah, calf stretches. And make sure you can rub, massage those things out a little bit too before you just go right into stretching them, because sometimes, those little cramps are like this, and then you stretch it and you're trying to pull it apart. Sometimes it's just all it takes is a foot movement, nothing crazy, and then a little massage to help you probably better. All right, so let's see. What other questions we got here? So, is there any problem with drinking protein and creatine before a workout instead of after? I don't do it, but that doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. I don't think missing it is a wrong thing to do. So what I would do is this. I would do a week without it, and then do a week with it before, and see which one makes you feel better. You might be nauseated because you have all that, but depending on what you're doing, if you're doing a lot of weights and then running, or calisthenics and running, or swimming afterwards, you may cramp up even. So you should assess yourself and see what happens, and then let us know. I'm curious what's going to be better for you. It kind of really depends. I don't do either one of those. I don't take creatine and I don't take protein before my workout. So, I mean, I'll get a banana. And I work out first thing in the morning, so I eat breakfast after my workout. So now when we do a 2 a-day, later in the day, I'll eat something for lunch, obviously, before the workout, but it's just regular lunch. What is the break period like between basic, buds prep, and buds? Like time period? Well, it depends. Some of my guys, if they time it right, they finish boot camp before Christmas, and then during their prep phase they get a week off at home because nothing's going on. Everybody takes Christmas to New Year's off pretty much, and you just go home during then. So that's a nice little break. Christmas breaks. Anywhere you go, though, it's probably going to be, but not Navy basic. If you go to boot camp before Christmas, you will not go home in the middle of boot camp. You're going to finish boot camp before you go home. So you will miss Christmas at boot camp. So there's no break there in boot, but in between boot training and buds, it's not much of a break. You go, if you leave on a Friday from boot camp, you start training on Monday at buds prep. And then in between buds, if you have a car, they'll probably give you a week to drive out there. The buds NDOC phase is kind of a rolling start. So even though it may start on April 1st, you may have until the middle of April to get there, you know, because over the course of 2 to 3 weeks, they'll build the class as people start coming in, because they don't all come in one day. And so you can show up on the back end of that, drive your car out there, get some travel leave, and have a car out there. I would recommend, because it's nice to be able to get away, go eat dinner, you know, when you can. But there is time off. And then when you're at buds, you'll get Christmas off again. That's a bit. What are my thoughts on overtraining? What do you mean? You shouldn't do it. You know, I've written a lot of articles on overtraining. In fact, if you go to my YouTube channel or iTunes, you'll see a tactical fitness report on overtraining. So here's what I want you to do. If you want to know my thoughts on overtraining, go to Google and put in quotes, overtraining Stu Smith, unquote, and see what pops up. You know, you might see some of my articles. You may see somebody complaining because they did my workouts and now they're overtraining. I don't know. So I'm setting myself up. Might get some actual words from me. You might get some opinions from other people. So check it out. Give it a shot. Progressive overload. Yes, it is important. That is how you grow. In fact, Google Stu Smith, progressive overload, unquote, and you will see an article I wrote on progressive overload. Besides, all you did was progressive overload ? I'm not sure what you're asking there. Do recommended running through shin splints or total rest? Do I recommend running through shin splints or total rest? Shin splints hurt, and you typically don't make yourself better when you have shin splints by running. I have been able to run through IT band flare-ups or patella tendon flare-ups, hamstring pulls, but I have never been able to see people do well, or even myself back when I had them in high school, do well with running with shin splints. Now, I will say this. I have had a couple people put on compression socks during the time they had some shin splints, and they said that helped them. So you might want to try that if you need to. But no, I typically, if you Google Stu Smith shin splints, you'll see an article I wrote on it and some of the methods to alleviate the pain before, during, after running. But yeah, check that out. So far, I've had 3 questions where I said Google Stu Smith and your question. You guys getting a hint? Maybe you could try that. What are some good stability exercises to mitigate the effects of scapular winging? Wow, good question. I personally like anything. In fact, I have this one workout called the PT Reset. And if you Google it, once again, you'll see several different exercises I have on YouTube with it, but they're the basics. In fact, my latest book that I'm creating, like this calisthenics cardio workout over here, creating its brother, the fall winter lift cycle. And in those 2, I have a lot of PT Reset programming in there, where basically you're doing this. You're doing reverse push-ups. So the hand release push-ups that the Army does. So you do a push-up. Instead of doing a push-up, you just lift your hands off the ground, right? So you're flexing your upper back really well. And then I do another exercise called birds, where you're just flying like a bird, right? Just up and down, you're laying on your belly. And then I do an arm hauler exercise. So basically like a horizontal jumping jack. And then you can get into some dumbbell activity. I have this workout called the lightweight shoulder workout, and that gets a little bit of the rear delts in there as well as the upper back rhomboids cycle of muscles. But bent over rows, a really good one. And let's see, what else do we do? I do this, the bird dogs. That's a really good one. So you lay down on all fours, left arm up, right leg up, left arm up, vice versa. Just to kind of work on putting it all together with your body versus just isolating, the upper back. So I hope that answered your question. I'm not sure if it did, but that's what I like to use to balance out all the muscles of the upper back. PT Reset, check it out. What stroke number would you recommend going to when training hypoxic swimming? Just one that you can do. I mean, I find that even if I just go to 8 strokes per breath, a lap of 8 is pretty easy. 2 laps gets a little harder. You try to do 8 strokes per breath for 250 yards, or maybe even try 500s. That's one thing that we did the other day is we did 3 500s, where the first 500 was just 4 strokes per breath. The second 500 was 6 strokes per breath, and the third 500 was 8 strokes per breath. And let me tell you, 1,500 yards of swimming, freestyle, got a lot harder with 8 strokes per breath. So I typically do this. We'll do a pyramid every now and then where we'll do 100 yards per set. So you start off with like 2 strokes per breath, which is really easy, 4 strokes per breath, 6, 8, 10 starts getting really challenging. I usually get up to 12. However, some days, if I feel pretty good, I can get up to 14 or even go all the way across the pool. It takes me about 16 strokes to get across the pool. So that's why I like 8, because it works out real well for I breathe in the middle, I breathe in the wall, and just try to, stay at the 8 cycle, because I stay there about 16 strokes. So yeah, you can build up all the way to that. But here's what I would do is do sets of 100s. And when you start to fail at that set, then you don't go up anymore, right? Or take a longer rest and then try it. So it may come into you have to rest a little more before you can try it a little bit harder. But I will say this, I've never seen anybody pass out from them, because people just have to turn their head to breathe. But you could, I guess, really make yourself pass out if you are trying to hold your breath like you were doing an underwater swim. So I would avoid getting to that level of windedness, if that makes sense. All right, so don't get so winded that you actually make yourself pass out, right? Okay, there you go. And I wouldn't do them alone either. In fact, I'd never recommend swimming alone. Lifeguard or a buddy, 100% of the time. How long does PTRR typically last for officers these days? I don't know. I guess it depends on when they show up and when the next date for Bud's orientation is. So, sometimes your orders will say show up September 2019. That means pretty much you have the month of September to show up. So you can go real early and have a month of waiting around for everybody else to form up before you even have a class, or you can show up a little bit later, show up and get your stuff done, and join the next Bud's orientation class, or NDOC, Bud's NDOC. So I'm not sure about that. So good question. I'll ask one of my guys, because a couple of them are there now. Okay, if you go into basic and peak shape, how much will you detrain if you're looking to go special forces afterwards? Some. Now I'm assuming you're going Army special forces with the way you use the term basic instead of boot camp and special forces instead of buds. So the good news about Army training is that, yeah, it's not as hard as any special forces selection, but it's not as easy as Navy boot camp is either. So you're going to be running, you're going to be shooting, you're going to, carrying weapons, you're going to be rucking. A lot of the things that you will be doing will actually not detrain you as much. But yes, there will be a level that will detrain. Maybe some of your longer distance runs will be a little slower. Your endurance be a little less. Maybe some of your strength, but they're really starting to get people into lifting weights now with the new Army combat fitness test that has deadlifts and hanging knee ups and all those sled pulls and all those fun things, medicine ball tosses. So I would say for you, if you're Army, you're going to get less detrained than if you go into the Navy and go to boot camp, you will be somewhat detrained. So I usually tell people go to basic or boot camp in peak shape, treat that training like a taper, and then come back into prep, let prep rebuild you and get you ready for buds again. That's my 10 cents. Great question though. How do you develop a strong scissor kick? I would watch a lot of people swim and watch their kick. Notice that it's not super big. It's not like this big spread eagle full split type of thing. It's more of a hard whip kick from the knees down. Watch some videos. Practice. Most important thing is practice, period. You need to get in the pool, and if you can't do it without a kickboard, do it with a kickboard. Also put on a pair of fins, right? Just a regular pair of slip-on snorkeling fins. I use a brand called Sporty. So ends with a Y, Sporty with an I on the back end. Sorry, and just flutter kick. Work on your flutter kicks, and then notice the difference between a scissor kick. You may like that. Add a couple scissor kicks in there when you're doing kickboard stuff, and see how far you glide, and then take off your fins and do it again. That's what I'd recommend. All right. Now you're asking about scissor kicking. Toes need to be pointed or flexed when kicking. I relax my ankles. If you don't relax your ankles, you're going to wind up getting some form of calf cramp when you swim. Definitely. Let's see. So are they flexed? I mean, I guess when you bring your knee up a little bit, you're not really flexed. You don't want to point like a hard point and flex your calf or stretch your calf. You're either going to be flexing your shins or stretching your calf, or vice versa. And depending on what you're doing there. So I don't do anything. If you keep your ankles relaxed, not that they just flop around there, but you'll have a lot less tendency to catch cramps. So what phase of your 4-phase periodization is best to be doing right before you leave boot camp, or does it seem on individual weakness? Good question. You kind of answered yourself. But yeah, I would probably wind up getting to a point where the PST you are crushing. In fact, a program I'm working on right now, in fact, I'll share it with you. I can share the on the YouTube video what we're doing here. Maybe I can share it with you guys. I'll turn it around. Let's see. You guys see that? So that's my fall winter lift cycle workout. Kind of similar to tactical strength, but it's just a little bit different, a little more updated. So let me stop sharing that. But anyway, yeah, so I've been working on that. A lot of the stuff I was telling you about, that'll be out tomorrow. But it kind of depends. It depends on where you're weakest most. So if you're a strength guy, I would focus on your, come from a strength background and all that stuff is easy for you. I would focus more on your cardio and high rep calisthenic muscle stamina base. If you're an endurance guy and endurance stuff comes easy to you, you're a great runner, great swimmer, I would focus more on your strength and muscle stamina side. Because you're not going to see anything at boot camp that's going to be challenging to you, especially if you're crushing a PST. Treat it like a taper, and hopefully when you get in there and take your PST for real for it to count, you're really squared away on that. Because here's the deal: if you show up to boot camp, you're barely passing the PST. Well, guess what? After a couple of days of being awake and moving into your barracks and all that, you might have to take a PST right there on the spot. Maybe you haven't even eaten breakfast yet, right? And you're on some, the Navy's diet and you're not quite used to it. You got to take a PST. Well, let me tell you, if you're tired and you don't do well on it, you're out. You are out of that program. So it is very smart to have not just the minimum standards, but really crush all the standards. It is that important. When I say crush the PST, you should be crushing the PST with scores like, 8-minute swim, 9-minute run, or faster on either one. 80 to 100 push-ups, 80 to 100 sit-ups, 20 pull-ups. These are my recommendations, not the Navy's recommendations. Can you make it through with lower scores than that? Absolutely. I'm talking about if you want to go there and actually compete to be one of the better, more in shape guys in your buds class, get those scores, because that will be fun. But yeah, I guess to answer your question, kind of depends on what phase you need to be in. I would focus on whatever I'm weakest most in. Thing for buds, I'm most worried about is pool phase. Is there anything I can read, study? I mean, other than like dive physics and dive math, algebra, basically, that's all I would really worry about studying. The other stuff is scuba diving, and treading water with weight with scuba fins on. I would recommend doing that. But I was scuba diving since I was 12 years old. So I've always had this fascination. So I don't know if that helped me at pool phase. I knew several people that been scuba diving like me, and they didn't do well at pool phase. So I don't know. It's just got to follow procedures for that one. And there's not really a whole lot out there on, the drown proofing, or not so much drown proofing, but the pool comp procedures. And you'll learn it when you get there. Part of buds is also adapting to a quick learning curve as part of what it tests, and your ability to learn how to do this stuff quickly will be a determining factor in you making it or not. So let's see here. What's my favorite bench press exercise to increase strength? I do 5x5s. Do you think that is effective? I think 5x5s is really good. I've done those for decades. I would say that's probably a go-to for that one. But I also like just reverse ladders, where you're doing like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to go super heavy. A lot of rest in between that. You can try a 10, 8, 6, 4, 2 type of thing and just do twos until you can only do one. That's a fun workout. But I prefer, instead of doing like 80% of my 1 rep max for 5x5, which is really hard, you should try that. I prefer, trying to push, a 1 rep or a 2 rep max type workout also. So not that like I said, always think 5x5 is my good go-to, but when I feel like I really want to push my 1 rep max strength, I'll do kind of those reverse ladder stuff. Just another one I just call 2 pops, where you just do sets of 2 until you can only do 1, and then do 1 a couple of times. Good question. I like bench. You'll see a lot of those in my new program I'm creating, different bench workouts. A lot of them are simple, 3 sets, 5 sets, 4 sets, different rep schemes, things like that. But 5x5 is a classic for sure. Let's see. Currently a firefighter, training for upcoming police PST, about 2 months. Any tips or training without jeopardizing my ability to perform as a firefighter? Yeah, that's not going to hurt you as a firefighter. In fact, it may help you, because really all you're doing, depending on your PST, I'm assuming it probably is the standard PST of push-ups, sit-ups, and a 1.5 mile run. Sometimes they'll throw in a sprint in there as well. I would just add those to your workout. If you're in a phase right now where you're trying to go super heavy, maybe pull back on going super heavy and add more muscle stamina activities, just to help you, because these push-ups and sit-ups, are easy to practice. Really need to practice a pace for the sit-ups, and need to practice just not burning out on push-ups. So that means a lot of reps. Pyramids are great for that. Supersets, max rep sets are classics. And then you just throw in, some goal pace running, 1.5 mile style stuff. Now, if you look at stewsmith.com and go to the articles section, you'll see a lot of articles on this PFT. In fact, I create a program called the PFT Bible that just focuses on it also adds pull-ups in there too. A lot of guys go on TAC-P, use that one, and do pretty well on it. But it's all pull-up, push-up, sit-ups, 1.5 mile focus. What good for muscle soreness after workout? I mentioned them at the beginning of this. We do a mobility day. You should watch the beginning of this video. Non-impact activity, stretch, foam roll, carb buffer. Let's see. Would you say your career as an officer in the teams was rewarding as it was challenging? Yes. I only did 8 years in, and my spec war career is not glamorous whatsoever. I don't necessarily think I was a good SEAL. Don't think I was necessarily a bad one either, but it compared to what they know now and what they do now, it is night and day. So 9/11 changed a lot in this world. And definitely SEAL training and post-SEAL training is one of them for sure, and their deployments. No, I enjoyed it. I like I said, I thought going into it, I'd probably make it a career, but life kind of occurred and had some change of priorities. Got married, started having kids. It was 1997, 98, and nothing was going on. Was injured. Had a couple of things I saw occurring, repeating injuries, same deployments, so I didn't have foresight into seeing that we'd spend the next 2 decades at war. All right. So yes, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed leaving the Naval Academy even more, but I also enjoyed going to BUD/S as an officer and in the teams. How can I use a pulse oximeter to better understand how long my body needs to recover between sets? You know what? That's a great question. I don't know. I've never used a pulse oximeter to better understand my recovery in between sets. So that's another good question. So what would some of the strength endurance standards you want someone to hit before they go into SFAS? Well, first of all, I'd start with your PST. Where are you now on your PT test? Standard Army PT test. And then take a look at your Army combat fitness test. Where are you there? So there should be a scoring criteria there. You should be close to 90 to 100% percentile on both of those if you really want to kill it. Do you need to be that? No, by all means you don't. I would do this though. So if you can run 6-minute mile pace for timed runs, that's great. If you can run 7-minute mile pace for longer style runs, that's perfect. With an occasional sub-7 thrown in there when needed for longer distances. Rucking, try to get your rucks down in between 10 and 12-minute mile pace. I think the Army minimum is 15-minute mile pace. So you want to be well below that minimum. And 10 to 12 is really good above average score. Deadlift, 1.5 times your body weight. If you can get close to 2, that's great. Squats, same, 1.1 to 1.5 times your body weight. Don't necessarily need to do any 1 reps, but I would, try to do a 1 to 5 reps of that type of body weight stuff. Bench press, if you can get close to your body weight and a little bit over your body weight, even better. But one of the tests at least they do in the SEAL TAP test is body weight bench press max reps. See what you can do. Can you do 15? Can you do 20? I actually answer a lot of these questions in the program I'm creating, or you can go to an article that I wrote on stewsmithfitness.com and type in what is good enough, and you'll see 2 articles. What is good enough special ops has a bunch of PST scores in there. What is good enough strength side, and has a lot of strength scores in there too. And it also references the Hell Week data analysis they did over several years of Hell Weeks, what everybody's scores going into Hell Week were, and the outcomes of Hell Week with those scores. So it's really good. Go to sealswick.com and check that out, and you can see what good and bad showed for outcome of Hell Week. So good question. Got me thinking on that one. How often do BUD/S candidates poop in the ocean? I don't know. I did twice in 6 months because I needed to. How would you go about swimming while being in hypertrophy phase of training? I would do it 100%. I mean, just because you're in a hypertrophy phase doesn't mean you can't do cardio. You just need to eat more. All right. Now, you don't need to blow it out on your cardio either, but we're in a hypertrophy phase right now, and we swim and run for a second workout in the day for about 45 minutes combined, depending on what you need to work on the most, you do more of. So you may only run for 15 minutes, but you're going to swim for 30 minutes. So how would you go about swimming? I always do swimming at the end, no matter what I do, swim at the end, and make it, I think a perfect workout for you if you're in a hypertrophy cycle is 1,000 to 1,500 yards of total swimming. You'll get that done in 30 minutes roughly if you do it regularly and without stopping. And do it with fins on leg day. You do it without fins on non-leg days. We like to do the 50-50s workouts and the run interval workouts when we're in lifting phases. So we run and swim a little bit less, but we do it a little bit faster. So check those out. In fact, if you go to stewsmith.com, click the articles section, you'll see an article on faster run and swim times for the PST. Scroll down the article section, you'll see it. All right, so I got a couple more. Been doing this for a little bit of time now. So let me get this guy, Levin Bravo, in here, in the Guard and Cadet at Army ROTC. Good job. That's a great program, by the way. Not people know that dual enrollment program where you can be in the Guard and do Army ROTC also. Really good deal. Good job with that one. I also have a spot at scuba school this summer with ROTC. That's awesome. Fun course. Currently at a 290 APFT. That's great. And a master diver swimming world. Any overall advice? No, looks like you are preparing yourself well. Just know that there's a lot of treading out there, swimming with fins, some underwater swims, of course your regular run and PT stuff too, and have fun. It sounds like you're, as far as diving's concerned, you shouldn't have any problems with your experience diving in civilian world. The only thing I would concern myself with would be swimming workouts on top of your PT running workouts. Definitely. So good job. I would basically just train like you're going to buds, because you're going to be running, swimming, and PTing out there. Probably I have to double check on rucking. I'm not sure if there's a ruck out there or not, but there is a lot of load bearing regardless, carrying the tanks around. So, rucking will actually help you prepare for that as well. Okay, last one. Best ways to recover from a marathon mile ruck. 26.2 miles. How soon do you recommend working out afterwards? Good question. You're going to be pretty beat up after a marathon mile, regardless of running or rucking, even if you've prepared a lot for it. I usually have people do mobility days for a couple of days where they're just pedaling, loosening up any sore joints, swimming, stretching, foam rolling, all those things can be as early as the day after, actually, and do it for a whole entire week if you want, and then slowly start to push in there what I call it's just a day. I call it the systems check, where you just do a systems check, and you do 5 minutes of non-impact cardio, followed by 5 minutes of various exercises that focus on one side of your body. So you're just going to focus on upper body pushing exercises for that next 5 minutes. Now, it doesn't mean you're doing push-ups for 5 minutes. It means you go to bench press, you go to dips, you go to military press, go to tricep extensions or push downs, and just see how you feel, right? Nothing crazy. Then you go back on the bike. You come back in, you do all the upper body pulling activities, pull-ups, pull-downs, rows, bicep curls, come up with some others if you'd like. And then you do the same thing, 5 minutes on cardio, 5 minutes off. Let's see where the legs are. How's it feel to do some leg machines? How's it feel to do an actual squat or lunge, no weight? How's it feel to add weight to that? How's it feel to do a leg press? All those things can be kind of determined in the next 5 minutes, and then you go back in and do it again and see how you feel. After that, do a couple mobility sessions where you just do 5 minutes of cardio, 5 minutes of non-impact activity, and stretching and foam rolling. There you go. All right, let's see. All right, last question, I promise. All right, so if you're interested in asking more questions, just email them to me, DM me, or you can go over to YouTube, and this video will be over there on Stu50 Smith, at the YouTube channel. And you can ask questions there and refer to segments of this video, because I'll post this video over there in probably about 20 minutes. Do you think 4 years is enough time to train for buds? Absolutely. Going in as a beginner swimmer, yes. I would say I was a beginner swimmer, even though I grew up in Florida and I was swimming all my life. I never swam competitively. I could get across the pool. I could play Marco Polo. That was it. I was not a swimmer. I didn't use swimming workouts as, swimming laps as a workout. That wasn't even on my radar in high school. It wasn't until I got to college. And then even then, I spent probably the first year and a half not even thinking about buds, and then started thinking about buds sophomore year and started preparing then. But I was slowly getting better on all those things anyway. So I kind of went from athlete into the military and then into spec ops. So it was a slow evolution for me. But once I made a decision of like, this is what I want to do, then it was 100% going towards that. So yeah, 4 years is plenty of time. Trust me. Doesn't mean to not start for a couple of years. I would definitely start rolling and building up a good foundation, no matter what those weaknesses are, and then just keep growing every year. Periodization program helps, so you go through cycles of the year, focusing on different elements of fitness. I think that doesn't have to be my periodization program, but I would consider doing some form of periodization program that helps you, whether it's in sports or it's within tactical athletics, tactical fitness. Okay, we'll end on that one. Thank you, everybody. I will chat with you later, and we will answer questions if you have them. Send them below. Check out stewsmithfitness.com, and have a good one.